What's going on, guys? It's Colin. We are live today with a very special episode number 26 of the Don't Revive Me Bro Battlefield Community Podcast. With me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Chris Red Dragons, and we've got a couple of very special guests today. First off, we have Daniel Matros, aka Zh1nt0, the Global Community Manager for Battlefield for DICE. And we have a surprise special guest today, Mr. Alan Kertz, who is better known by his Twitter handle of Demize99. And you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but I believe your title is Lead Gameplay Developer?
I am Core Gameplay Designer.
Core Gameplay Designer.
And as I just learned...
This is the man...
Yeah, as I just learned, you're actually not EA customer support. I was kind of confused by that.
Believe it or not, Reddit, I know some of you are listening, I am not a customer support, I'm not a community manager. We don't need another community manager, we have Daniel. I am the guy who does the weapons, the guns, and the little bit of rock that you always trip over when you're trying to get a dog tag.
Ah, excellent.
So
we do have, obviously, lots and lots of questions to discuss, but I'll turn it over to you, Chris. Maybe go through some of the user-submitted comments and questions. And Alan is actually at the pub right now attending a birthday party, so we're going to try and get him back to the party as soon as possible, and then we'll grill Daniel for a little while. So
yeah,
let's do this.
Good. Yeah, well, Alan, we've always wanted to have you on, and we're glad it kind of came together. There's been a lot of talk even before Battlefield 3 came out about quickscoping. Some people liked it in Bad Company 2, other people thought it was a big problem. Was the decision to kind of nerf sniper rifles at close range based on community feedback, or as you tweeted before, for the sake of realism?
Well, I mean, if I was going straight for realism, we would be going for every bullet is possibly lethal. And obviously when you get to that level, we're looking at getting a fun experience rather than a realistic experience. And as far as quickscoping goes, generally it felt like, I think quickscoping and one-hit sniper kills are slightly a different story. Quickscoping wasn't possible in BC2, and it's still not possible in BF3. And that sits back to the roots with Battlefield 2. But, I mean, with us really coming in from a Battlefield 2 perspective, our start off was the balanced model from Battlefield 2. And plain and simple, you couldn't one-hit kill unless you got a headshot. And I felt like that really made the snipers feel like they were pushing for that long-range gameplay. And I also feel like we've given the recon player other tools to get in close if he wants to.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah, especially with the addition to the all-kit weapons like the UMP and stuff like that. Do you find that the community feedback is kind of split on the decision, or just the people who enjoyed quickscoping are a lot more vocal than the people who had to deal with it before?
I mean, actually, I think that the community in general, it's a big spectrum of players, and there's definitely pros and cons for both of them. Is it a pure community issue? Well, I have to take a bit of designer freedom on this one and say that it can't be both ways. Mm-hmm. And I felt like it fit best for the recon wall, especially with the mid-range semi-autos and the bolt actions really of their ability to hit people from long range and drop them. And really, I feel like, you don't have to be nice to snipers. They're really going out there and they're putting themselves onto a skill pedestal, and they're looking for that headshot. It's like, you don't have to be nice to them, right?
Right.
They're going to do it. They're going to get good at it. And I think there's a lot of respect to that, and there's a lot of other close-range weapons out there that are just as respectable without having one weapon that generally is the go-to choice in any situation. And that's the big reason that I don't really want any weapon that's best at close and long range.
Yeah, for sure. There definitely needs to be that balance, and I think people are starting to understand that. It was a little unrealistic to, jump Call of Duty style and hit somebody in the toe close range and instantly kill them. There's not much competitive spirit, I guess you could say, when it comes to that. Another kind of big thing is, I guess recently you tweeted out some different pictures of the tactical lights. Were you reluctant to kind of nerf them or tone them down?
That is actually one of those things that's direct from community feedback. I was actually giving a presentation today to Inside Dice about what is balance and how is balance, and balance is perception, and I think there's a lot of perception out there, and people that are very vocal about the tactical lights are negatively affecting their gameplay experience. And when I sit down and look at it, and I love the concept. I think it's a unique concept in a shooter. Nobody's really done that kind of visual impairment aspect outside of a flashbang grenade or something.
Yeah.
And I think the response from those tweets has been overwhelmingly positive. And the general idea has been that the range of those flashlights was too far.
I found. Yeah. Well, I was going to say the range was far, especially in sort of broad daylight scenarios, especially like if you had the sun at the back of the person with the tactical light. But the angle of the beam where it could really impair you was really broad. So not only was it a problem if an enemy jumped in front of you, but when your teammates are running tactical lights and just running around the map, it was becoming overwhelming. And as people realized how effective it was, you would see the better part of the majority of the other team, I guess, running the tactical light, and it was, if you see one or two of them, it's not too bad, but as people gravitate towards things that are quote unquote powerful or very effective, then it was getting a little obnoxious. But I agree. I think the idea is definitely very innovative, and I'm very happy to see it being tweaked, because I think it's pretty cool if implemented correctly and adds to the gameplay.
I think that's one of the important things for us at DICE, and for myself especially, is, I have roots in the community. I was a clanner and a modder before I was a dev. I got into DICE because of a friend that I picked up in modding, who actually went on to make the original Strike at Karkan. And so for me, listening to the community is a really important part. Would I make that tweak on my own? Well, I didn't actually find it very annoying, but when you get an overwhelming response from the community like the Battlefield community does, that's really important to me. It's important to listen to that and respond to that. So, I mean, obviously those three pictures don't tell the whole story, and what we've basically done with it, and I should be very clear right now and say I don't know when this will go live, because there's all sorts of politics and things with when our patch schedule is. But when we do get around to doing an update that includes the light, it's mostly a range reduction.
Yeah.
If you get light in your face, it's still going to blind the hell out of you.
As it should. Yeah.
At 25 meters, it's not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, one of the hardest parts about being on the inside for game development is the understanding of what's easy to fix, what's not easy to fix, and what seems like it's easy to fix. And, I can look back right now in our bug tracker and see that there's a bug from a while ago saying, hey, I really prefer that flashlights don't blind your teammates.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, the way that system is written would require a complete rewrite of the entire system in order to make that happen.
Yep.
And talking months of work there to do that. I'd love to be able to pull it off. Ultimately, sometime we have to make sure that we get a game that's fun out to our players so they can enjoy it.
Yeah. Would it be a possibility, is it a challenge to change it so that the tactical lights and laser sights, for example, are off by default when you spawn into a game, and you actually have to, take action to turn that on?
I think that's a real player preference thing. So from my perspective, there has definitely been lots of discussion about can we make it a player preference? Can we say in a checkbox, turn my light on by default, turn my light off by default?
Right on.
And things like that. Right now, I don't have any specific news or action on that I can tell you right now.
Right on. Okay.
No, that makes sense. So you mentioned that you got into DICE by making mods before, and I know this has kind of been talked about for a while, especially in the PC community. Do you guys have any, or I guess I won't say do you have any plans, is there talk around about mod tools for Battlefield 3 at any time?
Really not my area, man. I'm focused on the core gameplay, and the mod tools are a tech and politics discussion. So I'm going to have to just say I don't want to comment on that right now.
Sure, not a problem.
And I think one of the other issues that, there's lots of feedback around this is overpowered, this is overpowered. I think that there are a lot of things in the game that, if used correctly, are very useful and very powerful. So, but the one thing I think that people are resoundingly concerned about is some of the spawn system. And Daniel and I were talking back and forth a little bit before we went live, but is that your arena in dealing with spawns? Because I know in deathmatch, team deathmatch especially, at the beginning of round even, an enemy can spawn right in your gun sight and vice versa. And also in conquest mode, you'll have, if you're trying to attack a flag, then the team defending that flag can spawn inside the cap radius, maybe right behind you, and that sort of thing. There seems like there isn't, or maybe it's there and not working, some sort of like a threat mitigation algorithm in there that determines where players spawn. Because I know that there's a number of places within a given area that, spawning is possible, and it just seems that it doesn't flip based on the map control held by like an attacker, for example, or somebody in team deathmatch.
Any spawn system is complicated, and we're aware that there's a couple of issues with the way that the spawn system works in BF3, and there's some really good YouTube videos out there and stuff like that, and I love the feedback that we get from the community and the repro, what we call repros, the reproductions of a bug, that we can go out there and we can get a YouTube of it and we can fix it. So with the intention with Battlefield 3 is to continue to support it for a long time coming. And I mean, do I think the spawn system is working flawlessly? No, it's not. We're looking into it, and for us the intention is to make sure that the spawn experience is something that it's never going to be risk-free, but that it should it could be a little bit better than it is, and we'll get to fixing that.
Cool.
Yeah, good. And that's something that a lot of people have talked about, but it's obviously something that you guys are noticing. It's not one of those small issues that's kind of sneaking under things. What are you guys kind of deeming as priority issues right now that you guys are putting into the next patch whenever that one gets kind of approved?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I've been off on vacation for the last 5 weeks, and I just came back in on Monday. So I've been a little out of the loop. I've tweeted a couple of things about what I've been working on, and there's some small balance things here and there, and I feel like we shipped a really solidly balanced game here. I think we got a lot of good tests out of our beta. We got a lot of great feedback from the community then. We managed to make some really good responses. And the big thing is when you look at DICE and you look at DICE's history and how we have responded to community stuff, it's important for us for two things. One, we keep supporting our games because that's important to us. We have dedicated teams to supporting our games. We had it with 1942, we had it with 2142, we did it with BC1 and 2, and we have it with BF3 even more than we've ever had it before. And those teams include the original developers. So for me, the big thing is we are listening to the community. I love the feedback that I get on Twitter. I love the feedback we get on Battlelog. I even love the feedback we get on the other forums that we have. I read Reddit. Daniel pulls through things and sends things my way when there's stuff for me to do. We're listening to you. What's on the plate? We don't want to make promises, because until we push that into a patch and get it to you guys as players, then promise is just words. And we would rather have our actions be stronger and let that come out when that patch is ready to go live.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Perfect.
That makes sense. What's kind of the one place that you always look for feedback?
I mean, one place. If you look for one place these days, you're not looking in enough places. Feedback comes from. If you want to talk directly to me about guns and infantry stuff, my Twitter is a very good place. But the Battlelog forums are hands down the best place. There are the most devs on there, the most people looking at it. Our community managers are looking at it. We created that space so that our community can come together in a single spot and talk about the game. That is the place. We are on there 24/7. Literally, we have community managers around the globe putting the areas together. It doesn't matter what language you speak or anything. Be on Battlelog. Put it on Battlelog. We'll see it. We read it. It's there, and we trust it. You're our community. We hear you.
Perfect. Right on. So, do you guys? I know we talked about the flashlight and stuff like that. Do you guys have any plans to tweak the IR scope at all?
It is something we're looking into at the moment. Yes.
Yeah, that's probably good. It's a little bit easy mode right now, but I'm not complaining too much.
No, I mean it's camper vision, right? So it's
one of those things that I have this thing where we test a lot of stuff internally, and we bring in people and everything, but ultimately what you're doing is bringing in people who have to look each other in the eye every day and get along, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I use a cheap tactic, then the next time I walk through the cafeteria, that guy wants to hit me, and I got to deal with that every day, you got to be respectful of these people, because these are talented folks. These are your coworkers, these are, and eventually what you get into is a place where I don't actually believe that any game can be completely balanced in the dictatorships. And so what I love about my position at DICE and DICE's policies and DICE's community support is that is built in to our structure. We are building teams months before the game launches to support that team after launch. The people who built the game are on that team. We're interested in that team. We have the Michael Calms and the Joe Grants pushing those teams to make sure that we're hitting those things. And IRND, it didn't show up in our playtest as being a huge thing. On mine now, I'm playing and I'm seeing a lot of it. And it's like, okay, maybe we need to do something about it. It's a bit more than it's intended, and we'll do something about it. But what I keep coming back to here is we hear the community, and it's really important to us. And there are hundreds of people listening to the community, reviewing the community, seeing posts on the UK forums, on the Battlelog forums, the Twitters, our own Twitter, and the devs' Twitters, and making sure that we address these issues because they're very important to us.
Absolutely, and there's no better way to find out what needs to be tweaked than giving it to 5 million people to play with. And it's good that Battlelog has, I went through the technical forums and everything like that, and it's good that you guys have such an easy way to, get noticed or get those bugs noticed and stuff like that. So that's great. Right on. What else do we have here? A couple major issues on PS3, which I'm sure you're aware of, are the input lag and the voice chat. Do you anticipate, I guess I should ask, are those more server-side issues, or are those more something that needs to be game patched?
So I got a bit of flack for I think the first guy who reported the PS3 problem that he had, and I believe my exact words were, "You're on crack. There's been no change to the controls." And I stand by the no change to the controls, but I saw a couple of places pick that up and run with it, and then they left out all the stuff about the follow-ups and the changing resolutions and what can we do to get around it. And this is one of the tough parts about game dev is we haven't changed the controls, but there's something else going on, and we have something in the rendering department, and it is seemingly related to a specific television setup or a specific PS3 model, and it's speculation on my part to say exactly what that is, but we're aware of it. We're looking at it. We're not happy with the current state that some PS3 players have, and we're doing our best to track it down and get it fixed for those players. There was another issue that you mentioned, which was one.
The voice chat.
I think that the other voice chat, on the PS3.
I don't have any insight into that right now. My area is basically the gunplay and the soldier experience and the balance. So
right.
I can't give you any insight.
No, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's something I remember. I think I know the guy. I think it used to be the co-creator of DRMB, Mr. GT, kind of started talking about that, and he mentioned something about lowering it to 480p would help with that input lag. So, but that's great that you know about it, and that it'll be touched on. One thing I'm getting a lot in the chat right now is the mobile anti-air. Do you guys see any issues with that at all?
Yes. Actually, I see kind of two issues. There is definitely an issue with being hit by mobile air knocking you out of control. And that's... I don't feel like the damage that the mobile air does is such an issue as much as how badly it can knock you around while you're flying, and especially with a helicopter, basically make an irrecoverable state. That's not the intention, and we'll take steps to remedy that at some point. The other side of it is that I think the mobile air, in terms of how we designed it, was you notice it shows up on maps where there are no APCs, and it's essentially designed to be an APC IFV infantry fighting vehicle that has an anti-air ability, and I think it maybe is a little bit ineffective in that anti-infantry role, and we'd like to take some small steps to fix that. It's one of those things where a couple of percentages one way or the other can make a big difference. And I think ultimately the idea is to make sure that being under fire from the APC should be a scary experience. From the AA should be a scary experience in a jet or a helicopter, but not a debilitating experience. And that's what we're going for to try and make sure we get that fixed.
Yeah, right now it's definitely, very useful against infantry. It's pretty devastating, but it's still, there's that balance. 2 RPGs are pretty much going to disable it. 3 or 4, you're pretty much dead. So there's that balance there, but I agree with you. A couple percentages either way will probably make a huge difference. Do you anticipate, I know we were talking to Daniel a bit earlier, do you anticipate multiple patches, or are you trying to kind of put as much stuff into one patch as possible?
The patch structure is, that's a whole can of worms in politics. We have a lot of partners we need to work with. We have a lot of people inside of our own organization, within EA and within DICE. My job as a developer is to make sure that the fixes are there, so when we are able to make those updates and able to work with our partners to deliver those to the community, to the users, to the fans, to the players, that they're there. And so as terms of past schedules and things like that, I really can't comment on that. It's not my area of expertise, and it wouldn't be fair to the people who are working very hard to make sure that those are as frequent and as important as.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. We know a patch is coming, and we know that there's a lot of extenuating circumstances that DICE can't get around to as to when it comes out. We just got a really good question from the chat. People are stating that burst fire seems less accurate than full auto. What
I love this one. So the PC2 had we had quite a big problem with players who got very, very good at burst fire and could almost fire as fast in burst fire as they could in full auto with an incredibly enhanced accuracy. The big thing that we ran into was that we actually felt like, I've spent some time experience shooting some guns, and we went down with the Swedish military and with the Swedish Stockholm police, and generally we've had this problem where the initial kick of a gun is actually, unless you're really, really, really good at it, it's unexpected. It catches you a little bit off guard. What I like about recoil is that it represents that, but it's also counterable by player skill. So the burst fire, you're going to experience a little bit more recoil, but it is something that has a skill shelf. It's something that a skilled player can counter, can anticipate, can work on, and he's going to get an enhanced accuracy level out of that if he can handle the recoil. But we also have a model that made sure that, and this is really important to us as developers, that somebody like my own brother who gets to play an hour a week can pick up a gun, pull the trigger, and at close range still maintain some sort of ability of effectiveness. For me, my answer to the burst fire question, I know this has been a little bit long-winded, but you get more recoil, yes, but you get a substantially increased accuracy. And you're going to put, with a control of that recoil, you're going to put that whole burst on a target. Whereas if you do that with full auto, those bullets are going to go everywhere.
Yeah, and I think that's something we saw in Bad Company 2 that was that maybe people are carrying over to and trying to play it a bit similar. So it's good that you're taking a look at that.
Just going through the link of questions to make sure that we have grilled him hard enough.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll take a couple more here from the chat, and then let Alan get back to the birthday party.
I don't feel quite cheered. My flesh is still pretty good, so bring on a few more grilling questions.
Sure, that sounds good.
Till the next round comes.
Yeah, exactly. Do you deal with servers at all? I have a couple people asking questions about reserve slots. Is that anything you deal with?
I'm afraid not. I don't have any insight into reserve slots. I know we've gotten a lot of questions about private matches, and I can acknowledge that I've seen a lot of them, and I don't have the answer to that right now, and it's kind of outside the scope of what I do.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So, rather than totally grilling you for the entire time we have you, now that you've seen the game go out and, be played and received by the community, what is something that, you're most proud of that you really hang your hat on as maybe a personal touch that you put into the game?
I really, really like the way players are starting to discover the usefulness of the SOFLAM in the team play role.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of, there was a Battlefield Mythbusters episode with the Javelin being able to lock on to air vehicles if they've been laser designated. And,
okay, yep.
And that's the kind of sandbox gameplay that we are looking for in a Battlefield game. And I'm really happy. That was something something that originally was intended and slated for Battlefield 2. And I think we really managed to find a way to make that work, make that a viable solution, and get that into the team play, so that players, especially that recon player who's not had the strongest reputation in the most recent years, can be a team player and contribute to his team. That's very important to me, and I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, that's a really, I've actually had a couple people mention that to me that, say that they're not the best first-person shooter players in the world, but they're glad they can still get points, they can still help out by doing other things, and even if they go 2-10, they can still be top or middle of the leaderboard for doing a lot of other things. One thing you tweeted out a couple days ago, maybe about tweaks to jets versus javelins and stingers. Do you think that's going to be a case of buffing the jets versus nerfing the stingers, or kind of vice versa?
I think that's a two-part step. We've gotten a lot of feedback from players that if you're in a tank and you hit disabled, you can do something about it, right? You can hop out, you can repair it, you can get it back into the battle. Your local engineer can help you out. Your EOD bot can help you out. There's stuff you can do. And we have a lot of hardcore pilots inside the office, and those guys are willing to put a fighter jet down with 25 health, hop out and repair it in the middle of the field. And there's guys out there that can do that, but for the average guy, he gets hit with one stinger, and he's still got 50% health, but he's out. We're looking at how do we handle that, and is that the right setup, the right balance, so that the players can feel effective from the ground, and yet still feel like they're not under an extraordinary threat in the air. And that's something we're looking very closely at. And I mean, you look historically at Battlefield, the air-ground balance is the hardest balance to get. U.S. military will tell you that having the air superiority is the winning way to go. And we don't want to turn the airplanes into the ultimate game winner. It's important that everyone plays as a team.
Yeah, I mean, this all plays into the whole fun factor of the game versus realism, which I'm sure has to be an incredibly tough balance to strike.
We look at it from an authenticity point.
Yeah.
We sat down, and I've had the fortunate time to speak with Andy McNabb one-on-one, and he's a completely delightful fellow, and you would never know that he had spent time behind enemy lines in Iraq. But he's definitely done a world for us in terms of putting things into context and giving us reasons for things. I think that's reflected in some simple things, as our reload animations. One of the things that Andy said to us early on when he looked at our reload animations, he looked at our light machine guns, actually, our machine guns. He said, well, the first thing you do when this thing stops shooting is run the bolt, because that's the first step. And these things fire from an open bolt, and he explained the background behind it, and he told us why it was, and we completely changed the animations for that. And those sort of aspects, that authentic aspect is really important. Where we get away from authentic is in the balance department. To be honest, a 9mm bullet in the right place is just as lethal as anything else. You don't want to get shot, but at the end of the day, it's a video game, and we want to be balanced, we want to be fun, and we also want players to be able to say, I believe this. This is believable, these feel right, these work right, this is how it can work. Everything down from the fact that the Javelin, has 2 attack modes. That's important.
That's definitely something that strikes a balance, like you're talking about, between the realism aspect and, still keeping it a fun game. In regards to the Javelin, is that something you would look really close at in regards to lock-on time. A lot of people are saying that they wouldn't run it because by the time you lock on, the tank's turning and shooting at you, or is that something that you kind of leave up to player preference?
That is definitely one of those very, a tenth of a second in a shooter is a long time. And so it's something that we are flexible about, and I think as players mature in the game and experience in the game, and tactics start to come out, if we need to change a value from 6 to 5.9 or whatever, we'll make that adjustment as necessary. This is a living project for us. We don't push a game out and say, all right, well, it's out there, have fun, and walk away. That's not how we do things at DICE. That's not how we want to do things at DICE. For me, right now, I think that players are still getting into the SOFLAM laser designator ability. I know I've seen lots of things on my Twitter that jets don't really have anti-ground abilities. You combine a jet with a guy on the ground playing the forward air controller thing, and you're disabling any vehicle on the ground in a hit. And that's powerful. That's really powerful. And I think people will come into that. It took a while in BC2 for people to get tracer darts down. And, I think people will come into the same for Battlefield 3. And I don't want to knee-jerk response and buff or nerf anything before the players have proven the point.
Yeah, I think it is going to take some time to figure out all of the tools that are available and how to use them properly in order to figure out what works best. And I think that, some things are used best in combination. So, if you go up in a jet without help on the ground, maybe you're not as effective as having a teammate. Like there are some things that require team play. And I think that, there are certain players that aren't recognizing that yet, right? A lot of people are still in the game, tooling around, doing their own thing. And there's going to be cooperation and collaboration required to get the most out of it. So until we get to that point, complaining about certain things is probably not the best course of action. You got to figure out how this all works first.
I do think it's important, though, that and let me say this, that I have seen lots of comments on it, and I take each of those comments seriously. And I can be a bit I wouldn't say short-tempered, but actually short-sarcastic.
Yes.
I will say you're on crack, and I will let my mouth get the better of me sometimes. But if you get a response from me, especially, then I'm listening. The whole dev team is listening. Daniel especially is listening, and he is pulling those things out and finding those things and sending them over to us as developers to make sure that we are absolutely delivering what our community is asking for us. So for me, it's a lot about there is no wasted tweet, there is no wasted forum post. All of that is useful because when you take it and calculate it in maths, you start to find trends, and that's what gets looked at. If one guy had said the tactical light is terrible, and it blinds me from too far away, and nobody else had ever said it, he could have been completely right. But he may not have gotten a response. But when I get a massive responses from the community, when I feel like I have a consensus coming out of the community, that's the kind of stuff that takes action. And I think that's important, that the big issues that the community has, they put forth, and that's what we listen to, and sometimes we do stuff on our own. I've been guilty of it in the past, and I can point to BC2 and say, I really loved the 40mm shotgun in BC2.
So did I.
I nerfed the crap out of it because I thought it was too good. And then I put it back because, it wasn't. And that sort of thing. It's a dynamic game. It's a game that we want to keep going. We are not pushing a new Battlefield every year, and we're doing that for a very specific reason. because we build games with longevity. We build games that people want to keep playing. We have built, we've calculated that to get everything in the game unlocked in multiplayer would take you hundreds of hours, and we've built that because that's what our players demand, and that's important to us.
Yeah, that's very important to not nerf things based on one or two, possibly outlier issues. And if that was the case, nerf the tactical light, then all of a sudden people are saying it's too dark, and then you don't want to keep going back and forth. You kind of want to get the community outlook and then go from there, I would imagine. Are you surprised at all by, I guess, looking at what people are doing with certain things in the game? One example comes to mind, the EOD bot boosters.
It never surprises me that somebody tries to find a cheap way to get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
That's human nature, whether it's in-game or whether it's on your taxes or whether it's on a test in uni or whatever. If you can get the path of least resistance is always the best path. The big thing is the battle log actually gives us an incredibly unique ability to find and address those players. It's something it's really to do it, and it also lets us identify those tactics. And I actually, as much as I have vitriol for the guys at IGN for putting out basically a exploit strategy suggestion, it also means we need to fix it. And for me as a developer, that's not a big deal because we have that plan in place. We have those people. We have the support structure to be able to say, we're going to fix this. We're going to support this game. It's not going to be an exploit fest, a cheat fest. We're taking those steps. So does that surprise me? No. But for me, what I really love, and what I find fresh, and there's a YouTube video which I'm not even sure I can mention the name of it on the air, but it's Operation D-Bag, and its sequel. And I sent it to a friend of mine who I used to play 1942 with, and it's one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. C4 everywhere and knife kills and witty little captions, and it's like, to me, that's when a guy jumps out of a helicopter packed with C4 and uses it to blow up a sniper hanging on the edge of a crane in Operation Firestorm. Hell yeah, no other game does that.
Yeah, there's all sorts of ways to kill campers in this game. Right now, do you find yourself, are you currently fully focused on patching, or are you working on, say, Back to Karkland and kind of projects that are coming up in the future?
Chris and your Karkland.
Karkand.
We give them... We grief...
I gotta be really, really, really good about saying Karkand, because the guy who made it got me a job. He won't let me forget it either.
Right.
Chris slipped up maybe a month or so ago now and said Karkland in a video. We've been griefing him about it on Twitter ever since. Yeah. So
can't get over
Well, at least he didn't say we were going to have Camaros in the game. But seriously, what am I doing right now? I'm spending a lot of time reading my Twitter. I'm trawling the forums. I'm talking to the guys over in our operations group who are supporting the game. I am not super involved in the Back to Karkand. I've been a team working on that for quite some time in parallel with the game, and I think that those guys are doing an excellent job. I'm getting in on those playtests now that I'm back in the studio and absolutely loving them. They're blowing up Karkand literally. Everything falls apart, and it's the Karkand you know and love until somebody puts a rocket into it, and then suddenly it's a completely different game again. And that's huge for me. There are 4 incredibly good maps in that. There are a couple of really super fan favorite weapons coming through, and even 3 I think new vehicles popping in on that, and I sound like a freaking marketer right now, but I don't know how else better to put it than I am enjoying the crap out of those playtests. And it is a seriously traditional Battlefield experience. It is a flashback to 6, 7, 8 years ago. Like, you pop the BF2 CD in and went at it. And Battlefield fans are going to love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's something.
For me personally, I'm taking a lot of things, so I can't really be specific. I'm big on making sure that the community feedback is heard within the studio, and I think that's my biggest focus right now.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I'm glad that's almost a full-time focus, because that's something that big game developers seem to lack on. As soon as the game gets pushed out, they say, okay, there's a couple of broken things, let's patch those, and then the game sits there. I'm not going to name names for the other big game developers, but it's good that you guys are focused on that. We have a question from the live stream about the mortars. Do you feel they're balanced currently, or are you taking a look at them?
I'm always open to adjustments. I think they're okay right now. We went back and forth a lot on that, and it's one of the things that I regret wasn't ready to be used in the beta to get the full player feedback. I think mortars are a lot like snipers. They are annoying more than they are effective. And when you get shot by one and you get killed by one, you're like, that jerk. He's on the other end of this tube and he's just dropping rounds. I see the frustration, and I think that tactics over time will adopt to counter them. There's going to be the guy out there who realizes that if he puts his own mortar up, every time that guy shoots, he's visible on as a counterattack for like 5 seconds.
Right.
So like every time you fire your mortar, you're on the enemy's minimap for 5 seconds. So if there's another mortar up within range, 1 round ends your day. Done. And I think that's a big deal. It's something I'm keeping a close eye on.
No, that's good. I think the major issue right now with mortars is kind of, especially in Rush, people will just immediately deploy as soon as the game starts, and then they're in the dead zone where you can't reach them, so they'll be sitting back there, and you can counter mortar and stuff like that. It's a little frustrating if somebody goes 30-3 mortaring from their base, but it's good that you're taking a look at it.
Well, I think the thing is that people know that it's effective. So, if one guy's mortaring from out of bounds inside like the attacker spawn, you can deal with that. But then 5 or 6 of them catch on and start doing it, especially when they start losing. So it's one of those fallback douchebag tactics that frustrates some people, I guess.
You mean like sniping? I mean,
Exactly.
I'm guilty of it. Like, I'm not pointing fingers. BC2, BF3, it doesn't matter. It's like, I'm playing the attacking team. You play the first 50 tickets, and you're like, come on, guys, squad, spawn on me. I'm planting the bomb. And it doesn't work. And 50 tickets later, you're like, fuck it, I'm grabbing an SB98 and a 12x scope and a bipod, and I'm going to go sit on that hill and enjoy myself. It's a very tough balance. Used legitimately, it's an incredibly powerful tool. And my regret is perhaps that it can be used in an overly safe place. We've thought about a lot of different things. We've thought about what if a MAV can disable it, and one of the problems with that is that technically if a MAV can disable it, he actually kills the guy in it, and that seems really cheap. So we would need to do some stuff, and right now, personally, my view of it is that I have not seen it used and abused significantly, but that doesn't make sure that that doesn't say that it doesn't happen. And it's definitely on the watch list and the probable list, but beyond that, I don't have any immediate plans for it, and I can't confirm anything right now.
Okay.
Yeah, that may be something that's just a little, people feel are a little cheap, but, again, it's good that you're looking into it.
Gents, I'm really glad to have been on the show, but I've been on here for, I think, an hour with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this community, and I'm really happy to have been here, but actually, I'm in the pub, and I really gotta pee.
That's a good excuse. So, no, we really appreciate you. Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on, and we'll look forward to talking to you in the future. Thanks again, and enjoy the birthday party.
Yeah, take it easy, guys. Thanks so much for having me on. And I'll see you guys in the future, and a big hello to the community, and keep hitting me on Twitter and on Battlelog.
Cheers, man. Enjoy.
Take care. Well, that was Mr. Demize99, and Daniel, are you awake, or did you have a quick nap?
Yeah, give me a second. I'm just gonna get some tea.
Sounds like you're fixing plumbing.
Alright. I'm here. I was just getting some tea.
Good stuff.
Yes. What's up?
So, Mr. Daniel Matros, the third time coming on. You are a fan favorite on the DRMB podcast.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah, it's great to be here. Great to talk to you guys.
So how was launch? Are you guys surprised at all by the 5 million copies sold, or what's kind of what you're expecting?
I was. I'm not in the numbers department, but I definitely was. I was overwhelmed. Wow. I mean, you're in the studio for the whole year, and once you go out, now I was actually fortunate enough to go out to all these events, and once we went out to E3, I think the big hit really came at E3, such as, wow, these people they're waiting for this game. They love this game. So that was our biggest positive shock. And after that was Gamescom, which I was glad to be a part of. We had a 12-hour line and everything. So I think the expectations were quite high on the game. But me being my pessimistic self, I want to, keep things low. I was actually quite surprised that we actually sold 5 million copies.
Yeah, it's pretty excellent accomplishment, and shipped 10 million, so that number is going to go up very rapidly. So that's great. What's kind of been your job after launch?
So
other than punching bag.
Before launch, I was doing all kinds of stuff. It felt like I wasn't doing community management at all. I felt like I was part of the game dev team. I was part of the operations team that I'm actually part of now as well. I felt like I was part of PR. I was a part of everything. I was the everything whore. That was what I felt like. But now after launch, I'm more focusing on stuff that we are delivering out to people. So it's mixed community management and mixed post-launch support, such as in operations. So I'm trying to learn the new ropes from Barry Tingle as to how we're going to support the BF3 launch, and server-wise and client patch-wise and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, great. So is that kind of more of a, I guess, community-facing role, or is that kind of more in the back end and then kind of, talking to the community like you have been doing in the Battlefield blogs and the Battlelog blogs?
I'm trying to do a little bit of both. We have fantastic EA community managers right now. We have Ian Tournay, Crash 7800, and we have CSON, fantastic person. It feels like they're doing an awesome job and that they are covering off most of the stuff. And what I do is just I try to pick up on the issues that are most important and bring them back, work with the team more than I've done before on integrating and implementing stuff, such as this works this way, and I learn how they work, and they teach me how they work. They teach me all the processes that you need to go through and all that kind of stuff. So it's more being on the studio side, I'm being more techie than I've ever been before. So if I start talking in codes to you guys because I'm working with columns, then yeah, that's why.
All right, and how long is that going to last for? I know you're talking about maybe transitioning to a different I guess it would be a different job entirely at DICE? Is that...
I don't know. I don't know. I love being a community manager. It's good. I both love it and hate it. I think that's the passion about the job. I mean, there are not a lot of jobs where you are fortunate enough to be at a Russian event, walking on the Red Square, and then flying for 30 hours to Sydney, standing on stage in front of 2,400 people, and then the morning after you're in the studio working with the dev team on patches and stuff. I mean, there are not a lot of jobs like that. So I actually love this job. But then again, you need to develop a career, and hopefully I can keep on developing my career at DICE.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's good that you, I guess, slowed down a bit. You're jet setting all over the place and kind of...
Oh, man, I never thought I would get rid of the jet lag. Seriously, I was destroyed when I got back. I mean, when I met you guys in Seattle, I hadn't even relaxed. So after Seattle came Tokyo. After Tokyo came like the global trips, and I was just so tired when I got in the studio. That was a week before launch.
Yeah, well, we relaxed a little bit in Seattle, maybe. I mean,
yeah, we did.
We'll just leave it at that too. Right on. So do you have any upcoming community events that you can let us know about? I know we have a couple things that you sent us an email about this morning that we'll talk about tomorrow, but anything else that you can kind of announce?
Yes, of course. We have, let's see here. For Karkin, that's coming out in December, that I'm going to talk about on this podcast as well. For Karkin, we need to, if you guys were around for Vietnam last year, you know that a lot of stuff went down when we launched the game. A lot of cool stuff was going on. And this year is not going to be different. We're going to have a lot of cool stuff coming out. We're going to have big tournaments. We're going to have big competitions. Lots of community stuff going on. So that is, of course, on the map, as well as releasing Karkin this December.
Excellent. Do you guys have... Well, I guess I'll talk about that a bit later. Will Back to Karkin kind of be like Vietnam, like a totally separate game, or will it be kind of integrated into multiplayer?
Well, Karkin is, first of all, only multiplayer, and it's definitely going to be integrated into BF3. It's kind of an extension from BF3. It's a big context pack, a bit further than the expansion pack. A lot of stuff is new. We're introducing a new thing in Battlefield franchise ever called assignments, which is you get a certain amount of tasks that you need to complete with your class. So if you play Combat Medic Assault, if you play Support, if you play Engineer or Recon, you get certain tasks that you need to complete. And with these tasks that you complete, you unlock the weapons in Karkin. And when you unlock the weapons in Karkin, you can bring them back to the original base game, Battlefield 3. And everything you do in the game counts towards your rank progression in Battlefield 3. This is because we don't want to let new players who get, Karkin and BF3, we don't want to let them start from scratch and then try to rank up with all these people. It's, if they complete the assignments in Karkin, they get the weapons, they get to play with those weapons in vanilla, but they still need to unlock the other stuff.
Oh, okay, that's very interesting.
That's cool.
That's something that was actually on my list to ask if the weapons are going to carry over, but very interesting. Assignments.
Yes.
Is a good idea.
And with Karkin, there's a lot of new stuff coming as well. We have Conquest Assault, great game mode from BF2 coming out as well, which is, I'm mostly looking forward to Karkin because that takes me back years. So it's going to be good.
Back to your youth.
Yes. I'm still young. Come on.
Right on. No, that's very exciting. So that obviously you don't have a set date yet, but in December, so that will be.
Yes. We'll announce the date when we have a date, but right now it's December, and it's not very far away, right? It's like
no.
Exactly.
Nice.
Do you guys have plans for any other major DLC like that? I know you talked about. Can't remember how many integrations of DLC Battlefield 3 has planned, but is there any other major pack?
Oh, you're stressing me up with that question, Chris. I'm going to lose all my teeth and hair now. No, we'll see what happens. I mean, Karkin was very much based on community feedback, and of course our own feedback in the studio when we went around and asked, so what do you want to see, and what do you want to see? And then our amazing lead designer Nicholas Figueres came up with the idea, together with the core team of designers, that we should bring back Karkin and Oman, Wake, and Sharky, which is a very good choice. And a lot of stuff is based on feedback, and I would say everything studio-wise and community-wise is based on feedback. So if you have an idea for a DLC, just pitch it in the forums, and we'll definitely take a look at it. Not saying that we're definitely going to do it, but we're going to take a look at it.
Okay, I won't beat around the bush then. Dinosaur mode? Is dinosaur mode coming?
Dinosaur mode is not coming, unfortunately. I mean, I'd love to see a raging dinosaur with lasers shooting out of his eyes on the battlefield, but it just doesn't fit the concept, unfortunately.
Canceling my pre-order. Sorry, inside joke.
Colin's being awfully quiet. Colin, where are you?
I was sitting here on mute, actually, so oops. I do that all the time.
He's swearing at you under his breath.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. Really wanted that dinosaur mode.
Yeah.
Well, I think it would be cool. I think it'd be cool to see like a period type DLC re-rendered with Frostbite 2, since the engine is such a huge step forward. It would be interesting to see something. This is just my personal preference, like a World War II shooter rendered in Frostbite 2. That would be something else.
Yeah, and that would be very interesting from our dev perspective as well. We started out with BF42, and
exactly.
It would be very interesting to see how that looks in Frostbite 2. So, good idea. And obviously we don't have the stress today as we had when we released BF42. I mean, the games industry was something completely different. There were 24 people working on BF42 at that time, and post-launch as well. And the absolutely biggest question we had when we released BF42 was, is anyone going to buy this? How is anyone going to play this, actually? Because it was a very unique concept at that time, and now we raised the stakes for BF3. We have a bigger development team than ever, a bigger marketing budget than ever, biggest support than ever, and all the hype has been amazing for this game.
Well, that's something that kind of hasn't really gone away. Like, I was expecting the hype to kind of die down after release, but people are still talking about new things, news is still coming out, so it's good that that's carrying over. Yeah,
and I mean, we've had a lot of issues during the launch. I have to be honest and say that. I mean, a lot of people failed to connect, a lot of people have problems with Origin, a lot of people have problems with Battlelog. I would say that a lot of those problems have been solved now, or solved during the first and the second day, during our server patches and maintenances and that kind of stuff. But there are always going to be smaller issues around, and we just need to make sure that we give these people a good experience when they play the game.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the whole point of, I guess, having community managers, is to make sure that you guys are, hearing the feedback, and it's good that Battlefield's kind of interacting with people when they have issues and stuff like that, and that's something that I know the community really appreciates. You touched on a couple server patches. The newest server patch, R7, got rid of a setting that allowed admins to unlock all perks and weapons. Do you know if that's going to be coming back at all?
We took it out because we wanted to take a look at what it did to the backend, what it did to the server. And there's a lot of different stuff that also we need to take a deeper look at. I mean, if we add these things in because people want them, people always want stuff, and we always want to give stuff out. But now whether we can or not is the biggest question. Whether it will affect the backend is also a big question. So when we roll things out and take them back, we need to make sure that we test it. We need to properly test it in a studio before we roll them out. And we took it back. We also haven't given out reserved slots because we need to see what it does to our backend first. We need to make sure that it's 100% stable, and then we will roll it out.
And that's something you guys have a lot of quality assurance guys working on constantly? Like, you guys kind of keep those on board after launch? And
Yes, so when I'm on the operations team, when we make a server patch, we send it off to testing. So these people in the QA, the quality assurance department, they test the builds. They make sure that it's good, it's up to quality, it's aligned with the base game, what's already out there. They make sure, well, pretty much to make sure it works. And after the testing, it goes through a review, and when it has gone through the review, we make sure that it's good enough to release, or it's better to release it than not to release it, and then we release it. And even with a full game, even with Battlefield 3, I mean, there were times in the studio from, I would say, July or June onwards where we were sitting and playtesting the game every day. I remember emails dropping in from Lars Gustafsson saying that, all right, everyone, stop working, start playing, we need to make sure that this works. So yeah, we tested it every day, and during the first day of the launch of Battlefield 3, the game had been played more hours than we've actually ever tested it in the studio. So testing is something in a live environment is always much more risky, but also much more rewarding than testing it in your own studio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly, and that's why betas are so important, correct?
Yes, so the beta was very, very important for us through a lot of different aspects, and the alpha as well. The beta was important because, well, first of all, the beta was played on old code. It was a true and a proper beta. Not many game developers release true betas these days, with all tons of bugs and glitches it had. This beta was pretty much, it was playable, but it was very, very broken at places. And it was older code. We needed to branch it off in order to, finish the actual game. And hopefully everyone can see the improvements that have been made from the beta to the final game. And the beta was very important so we could test the server stability, which was number one for us, and test the client stability as well.
And that's something that actually works better than expected. I was expecting to play single player on launch day. But the servers have been very good, so I thank you and appreciate that. So,
well, yeah, I mean, we're satisfied with the launch. We're really happy with the launch. Of course, some people had problems, but overall it went really smooth. Now we just have to make sure that those people who had the issues are, being kept after, being heard, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I've played a lot of sort of day one releases of various different games, and they haven't been good. And this, I was pleasantly surprised with the BF3 launch. I did play exclusively on PC for the first week almost, I think, before I tried out PS3. But it was there are issues, but it's been decent. It's been, it's better than decent.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You could say we really learned our lessons from the past. I mean, take a look at BF43 on consoles. The first few days were just completely unplayable because we weren't really ready for the onslaught and the horde of people that were gonna purchase this game and start playing it. And the same thing with Bad Company 2. Server stability wise, I would say we were more ready than we thought we would be. But then again, so many players joined that it was pretty much unplayable the first days. And this time for BF3, we anticipated a lot of people. And fortunately, it held up.
Yeah.
There was 8 million for the beta? Or 8 million people played?
Yeah, I think it was 8 point something million.
Yeah, so that's... should give you a good indication of how many people are going to play in the first couple days.
Yes.
Great. So I know we talked to Alan about this. What's kind of the best way to give you feedback?
The best thing right now, I'm actually in the middle of so many things right now. So I would say the best thing is put it in battle log and link it to me on Twitter. As much as I hate to say it, Twitter has become the hub for me, where I can put up quick updates and then just tab out to something else without writing very, very long messages. If I got paid for every word I write during a day, I would be a billionaire right now. So Twitter is probably the best way. And the way, I probably need to mention this, the way we work with feedback in general is if it's something of substance, if it's something that relates to the game, if it's the logic of the game, it definitely gets picked up. And when you present feedback, you just don't send a thread to someone saying, hey, this person says this. You put it in a nice little document, because that's what we do with DICE. We make wonderful PowerPoints. You put it into your PowerPoint, you bring it into meetings saying, so this and this many users have had this issue, and this has been going on, and this is the current sentiment of the community. And together with the awesome telemetry tools that we have developed now for Battlefield 3, we can actually balance these things out. So if a lot of people say they're having issues with this and this flag on this and this map, we can take a look at our telemetry and what that says, and then we balance it out.
Very technical. Well, that's something that's, a lot of people were confused about Battlelog, launching a game from a browser and stuff like that, but it's actually been very handy to see not only your stats and the servers, but all the other issues and, start that conversation. It's basically the EA forums, but less hate. So, it's a little
you mean Battlelog?
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen some funny posts on Battlelog though. Some funny, terrible posts. There was this one guy, he was from Australia. This was during the days, I think it was the first week where we had some issues with Australian servers not showing up and that kind of stuff. So this guy writes, so what gives DICE? What's up with the Australian servers? I can't see them. And this guy from the UK replies, well, if your great-great-grandfather wasn't a criminal, you'd be living in the UK with Apple servers. And it's like, and then there was this another one where someone said, because of the issues with Origin, we should get BF42 for free as compensation. And no one took this guy seriously, because the other guy under him wrote, I should get your mother for free as compensation because she was late with my sandwich. It's hilarious. It's funny. It's rude and terrible, but it's funny at the same time.
Well, something to keep you entertained, I guess, when you're going through it.
Yeah, I mean, we print out posts from Battle. I remember this. I remember one of the funniest posts. We've been working so many hours. We were dead tired. If we would have rested our heads on our desks, we would just fallen asleep and woke up the next day. There was this post on Battlelog where someone wrote in the forums, hey, is Battlelog down? I can't see it on the forums. And then someone wrote, well, if you're here, you're on Battlelog and it works. And I sent this off as a funny message to some people, and one of these people replied, I don't get it, is Battlelog really down? What can we do to get it up? It's like, oh my god. That was hilarious. We were all really tired though, so.
That's funny. Well, it's good that there's not too much BS going around. I know I've contributed to a couple threads based on actual issues, but they seem to be pretty good for the most part, so it's good that it's a good feedback tool for you guys.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a brand new game on a brand new engine. Of course there are going to be issues, and we know there are going to be issues on it. That's why we have this operations team set up. Now, if you remember Battlefield 2 or 2142 back in the days, we didn't have the same way we could track data or extract data from the game to us in the studio as we have with BF3. Mm-hmm. So back in the days, we had one patch going out based on complete community feedback on jets, for instance, on Battlefield 2, and all of a sudden all jets became overpowered. So now we actually have a different way. We have a dedicated team with at least 30 people called the operations team. That's the team I'm on right now. And the operations team consists of associate producers, consists of software engineers, senior producer, development director. So we're a tight-knit team that used to work on BC2 post-launch. Now we're back for BF3 post-launch. It's also the operations team, the design team that's putting out Karkin. So we're a very tight-knit group that pretty much all of us have been around for at least some time, at least 2 or 3 game launches. And valuable experiences give good work. So we're definitely going to support this game post-launch. We're definitely going to come out with patches as well.
So what you're saying is you're not announcing Battlefield 4 for next year?
Bad Company 3 is not happening by this time next year. No.
So,
Yeah, it's only going to be single player, and it's only going to be for college, so no one else gets to buy it.
Exactly. I'm shooting for a voice acting spot this time around.
Oh, you'll get it, my friend. You'll get it.
Yeah.
You got that Jack Black thing going on, so it's all yours.
Jack Black, wow. You just wait to hear his new song, everybody listening. Oh, it's pretty amazing.
It's getting there. It's almost ready.
It's perfectionist.
Yeah, exactly. I've sent Chris like about 9 or 10 different quote unquote final versions right now, and there's probably going to be a few more. So I'm really taking my time with this one. And as I said before, the video is going to be better than anything I'd be able to put together myself. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know exactly when the launch is going to be. I'm going to pull a dice here. I don't want to promise anything and not be able to deliver. So
nice. That's the way you do it.
Yeah. So December 2011. Look for a new video by.
So whenever your wife asks you for dinner, say, "Yeah, we'll see. We'll see."
Yeah,
no ETA.
Watch this.
Don't want to promise it.
So we talked a lot about the different feedback. Now, a lot of people are having issues with cheaters and people who are boosting stuff like that. And you tweeted something about this today. What's kind of your plans for hackers and boosters, and where can people report them?
So right now, in comparison to before, in BC2, we didn't really have a DICE anti-cheat group. It's a lesson we've learned for BF3 now, that there should be a DICE anti-cheat group. We usually, back in the days, this was last year, not like 10 years ago. I feel really old. So last year, all of us just reported issues randomly that we saw. Now we actually have a separate DICE anti-cheat group within the operations group, which is me, Barry Tingle, Andreas Skoglund, Bidney, our amazing telemetry wizard, and Michael Collins as well, and some other people. We're on this anti-cheat team, and we're currently discussing the different implementations, technically, what we can do to limit the cheating that's going on. And one of the things that we're going to do, that we have done and are going to keep doing, is to send out waves of bans to people who use a tool to cheat. Now, if you stats pad, you get your stats wiped. If you stats pad again, you go out. And the same thing with cheats. It's very difficult to say unintentionally cheat, but if you cheat, according to the EA Terms of Service and Rules of Engagements, you're out as well, so you get banned. And this has applied to everyone who cheats from day one up until now. And in this anti-cheat group, we're going to work more technically to stop cheaters, whereas we're also going to work on sending out waves of bans to people.
Is that something that they're going to be notified by, or they're just going to log in one day and...
No, they're going to be notified, of course. So yeah, and in this anti-cheat group and the whole banning thing, we send out waves of bans daily. And if they're not gone from the leaderboards, it's because there's different technical implementation for that. If a player is banned, it doesn't remove his stats on battle log. It just means that this player can't play anymore. So we need to take separate measures to wipe the stats from the leaderboards. And this is also something we're working on to, with the click of a button, just remove everything. The thing is that it's on separate systems, it's on different platforms and that kind of stuff. So that's up to us to do. Gotcha. Stats padders and cheaters will get banned, definitely.
Right.
And
yeah, and that's something that's fairly clear-cut by looking at the leaderboards. But if somebody... I know it's kind of a fine line, I can report don't blink for cheating all day, but there needs to be some sort of, I guess, way for you guys to double-check.
Yeah, there needs to be... if there's 30,000 score per minute and the skill level is minus 22. That's a very easy balance. You do know that this person is cheating or padding or whatever it is. And players who have a KD of 100, that's also very, weird.
Right.
So if people have very weird stuff going on in their stats, we take a look at them.
Now, is there any sort of automated system that goes through stats and looks for stuff like that, or is this on a it has to be reported type basis?
We have both right now, whereas the first one is, it's very early developed, but we're still using it together with the fact that we're looking. So we have these awesome community managers over at EA, Redwood Shores in LA, CSUN and Crash, who are digging into a lot of stuff regarding leaderboards and that kind of stuff to bring it out, and we're working together with them. We're working all together to make sure that we create a cheat-free environment. And as Alan said before, people are always going to cheat. Cheats have always been around. Now, if we only could limit that more than we have done right now, I think we're looking at a very healthy BF scene.
Mm-hmm. And is that something that you guys kind of have to take care of before the competitive scene gets bigger, or is that something you can kind of do side by side while rolling out tools for the competitive community?
I think a little bit of both. I don't think really anyone enjoys playing in a cheating environment, whether you're a casual player or a competitive player. Usually competitive players have their way to see what's going on more than the casual.
That makes sense. All right, what else do we got here? Excellent. So we're getting a lot of questions in the chat about private servers for consoles. Is that something that you guys are looking at rolling out in the future?
It's been something I've been reminded about since we released the game. So we've brought it up for discussion in-house, and we're right now looking at ways to implement it. Not saying that it's going to be implemented, we're just drawing up technical scenarios and technical concepts for it to see if it's actually doable. So the discussions are ongoing. Nothing has been said, nothing has been done yet, but we're discussing it.
That's good to hear. What about things like Battle Recorder and Spectate Mode? Is that something that you're still considering?
Knew that would come up. Of course, I'm going to answer.
Of course.
So we've early on, I believe it was at DreamHack this year. Our executive producer Patrick Boss said we had an esports aim, and we do aim for esports for Battlefield 3. We just want the game to be out for a set amount of time. We want it to sink in. We want people to know what they're doing on the battlefield, and we need the time to develop this stuff as well. So, yeah, we just need to look at our timelines. We need to look at our dev timelines as well and see if it can really be implemented, if it's actually going to be implemented at all. So not giving a yes or no, but still sticking to the good old, we're still aiming for esports announcement.
It's good to hear, and that does make sense.
It's very, very tricky to answer that, actually, because we have so many dedicated esports people. One of them is me, one of them is Niklas Figueus, you have Tim Shell, you have, which is still a monster on Twitter, you have Gustav Halling, you have Fredrik Thelander, which is a huge esports fan, you have Valerian Noggin, who's our lead designer for UI and that kind of stuff. So we're all very, very mixed in esports, and a lot of these small lunch breaks we have, and when we sit around and talk and drink tea or whatnot, we usually talk esports, not specifically about Battlefield esports, but we talk about StarCraft esports or Counter-Strike, Quake, and that kind of stuff. So we have a very, very dedicated esports scene at DICE as well. So it's not something that we're completely new to, and we would love to see a growing esports scene such as we had in BF2 as well.
Excellent. That's good to hear. I know a lot of people are looking forward to that, but it is a new game, like you said, a new engine, so you do need that development time. Excellent.
Sir.
Servers. Oh, for Comoros, was that implemented due to kind of community request and community feedback, or was that kind of always something that you guys were hoping to bring into Battlefield 3?
I would say I would say both yes and no. Looking back at Battlefield 2, there are a lot of good stuff to pick because it was a very good game. So I think the usual mindset is to bring everything into the game you're making to make it better than the one before. But then you also have something called a dev timeline. You have something called development directors who manage the projects and who are very, very good at seeing what we can spend time on, what we can't spend time on. So take, for instance, maps that we created in Battlefield 3. We started out with, we're going to have this and this many maps. And slowly over the development process, we saw that a lot of maps look like each other, so why not blend them in to make it a more awesome experience? So a map called, for instance, Caspian Border was changed. The name was changed like 4 or 5 times. It was called Forest, or Operation Metro was just called Paris, and Firestorm was just called Oilfield. So it used to be Oilfield, then we changed the map to something called Firestorm. And developing stuff usually takes a lot of time because it needs to be aligned with code, aligned with UI, that kind of stuff. And drifting away from the subject, I'll be right back to the Camaro stuff. And when you look at the features you had and the features you want to implement, you also need to take those things I just talked about in perspective. Where do we want to go with everything? Do we want to do everything before we launch? What if we don't focus specifically on these issues and push these other things aside, such as a Frostbite engine, which needed heavy work on it because it's a brand new engine. We have a very good and big team working on the Frostbite engine, so why not put our resources on there and make sure the game experience is fluid enough? Or very fluid, to say the least. And I think the Camaros came up very early that we should have a Camaro. Then it, of course, because of all these different concepts draw-ups, because of the different emphasis we put on the different teams, it got pushed back a little bit. And then I think the community's call out for Camaros made it even more important that we should have it in the game. So we implemented it into the game, and I've seen the threads, I've seen what people say, I've also heard what other people say who are not in the games industry as to what is this thing, is it a call-out thing, or what is it? So obviously there are a lot of implementations and fixes and better stuff we can do with Camaros as well.
And that's something you're continuing to look at, like bringing it to consoles and adding more functionalities?
Yes, as soon as we find a good way to implement it for consoles, we will definitely do it. But then again, I was just going to say something about the console stuff. What was I going to say? Yes, as soon as we find a good way to implement it for consoles, we are going to bring it for consoles. But right now, we're mostly focusing on keeping the serious issues away from all the platforms, such as Xbox, PS3, and PC, that is. So I think we need to let the game sink in. I think we need to let all the feedback come in from all the different various types of gameplay issues to the graphics issues to the sound to the controller inputs and that kind of stuff. We need to work with those that are mostly gameplay oriented. And then we can focus on additional features.
And that's something that kind of bodes well for Battlefield 3. If a lot of people are complaining about these small little issues that can be fixed, like Camaros, and a couple people are talking the live stream chat about the chat box, I guess that kind of means there's not major game-breaking issues. There are still issues that need to be taken care of, but they're not so prevalent that people are only talking about them.
Yes, I mean, we're very fortunate at DICE to have a good community that helps us in the dev process, that actually points towards issues that they feel are important. If we had a community that just sat around and said, okay, this is good, things would quickly become boring. So I think it's good that we have a vocal community to actually, speak up and make petitions and tweet us, and, I think it's good. It's healthy.
Some good, healthy
yes, sir.
Twitter arguments.
Absolutely, yeah. It's always fun to participate in the Twitters.
In the Twitters, yeah. So Demize mentioned, we talked to you before we started recording about the ETA on a patch. Do you want to kind of explain to people why you guys don't have a set ETA quite yet on the new patch?
So when you make a patch, or an update in the studio, you list a couple of fixes or a lot of fixes or however you want to put out your patch. If you want it to be a big patch, you put in a lot of fixes, of course. So when you put in a lot of fixes in bug tracking and that kind of stuff, you send it all. You make a nice little build out of it. Send that build to quality assurance. They take a look at it. They make sure it's okay. They may review it. And then it needs to be reviewed at several other instances as well. And what if something breaks during the process? I mean, if you will buy a car, let's say for instance, you go out and buy a car, you want to take it home. You tell all your friends that, hey, I bought a car. You get halfway to home and then it's broken down. You feel like you shouldn't have told everyone you get in the car because this piece of shit won't roll. And it's pretty much the same thing with patches. You want it to arrive. You want it to be good when it comes out. So we're keeping it under lids until we've tested completely, until we've done complete testing on it, and then we're completely sure it works, and then we roll it out. And then we can also put an ETA on it as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, patches take time, and the development process takes time, and you guys have to make sure that you're patching the correct things and then get it off to all your partners.
Yeah, I mean, let's just take this for instance. I mean, BC2, we released a patch in, I think it was November last year. We released a patch, or maybe it was end of October, where we fixed a lot of stuff, and then it all of a sudden removed bullet tracing in the game. And we didn't know about the issue. We couldn't test it properly because, well, a lot more people would test it once it was out than our QA department. It would only appear in certain circumstances. And we got the feedback almost like 24 hours after that where is bullet tracing? It's all gone. I can't see anything. So it's that kind of stuff. I mean, if you want to roll out a fix, it should be a proper fix. It shouldn't be a semi-fix / break thing.
Yeah, you don't want to patch the patch.
Yeah.
That makes sense. One of the things people are kind of been asking me a lot about it was the ability to create second soldiers. I know there's a little bit of confusion before Battlefield 3 hit. Is that still one soldier per one account?
Yes, that's one soldier per account.
Okay. That makes sense.
It has a lot to do with, I wouldn't say security, that's probably the wrong word, but a lot to do with cheating and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. You don't want to ban somebody and then they just create another soldier and do it again. And
yes. And there, of course, I'm going to be met with a lot of posts saying, well, if you would do this and this and this, of course, we can always do stuff, but then we also have limitations as to what platforms and that kind of stuff we will implement the EA ID on and all that stuff that I'm really not the right person to talk to. An EA account person about that.
Right.
And Eric Stadler from Battlefield, though, just reminded me that we have a tool called Get Satisfaction in Battlelog. It's on the left side. It's on the left side of Battlelog. You just click on feedback or support, and then it takes you to a different page. We can add in your topics, and we have active moderators there and everything, and pick up the issues. That's also one of the hubs that I'm getting sent a lot of community feedback from. So that's a good place to write.
And would that be the best place to talk to, about problems with Origin and, Battlefield 3 EXE crashing, stuff like that? Or would that be more of Origin support?
That would be more overall, and it would get filtered into Origin. For Origin people, it would get filtered to people who work on, like me, on the game and patching and operations and that kind of stuff, and it will be sent to customer support because they're active there. So it's really a team effort we have going on there, which has been good so far. And of course, there are always going to be tons and tons of messages that we will miss because I'm sorry we don't have all the time in the world, but the time we do have, we will try and spend there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's not Crash's job, just to sit in front of the computer and wait until a new issue comes up.
Oh, I don't know. Crash does a lot of other stuff than that, too. See, this is what people think about community managers. I mean, Crash and CSON are CMs at EA, and they worked closely together with marketing, and they have done an amazing job so far since they've been on the CM team. And I'm supposed to be working with marketing as well, and I am, but most of my time naturally goes to studio time, which is why I'm in the studio.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, I think we're kind of coming up on 2 hours. Do you have anything else, Colin? Or you can let...
No, I mean, I think that my experience overall with the game has been pretty positive. I've had to change my mindset a little bit because, you know, as the players get used to the game, they don't necessarily exercise the best in team play, and that's been a bit frustrating.
Colin, you should just spawn somewhere else.
Yeah, I should just spawn somewhere else. If I choose to spawn on a teammate and I get mowed down, that's fine. But if I spawn on a flag and an enemy is immediately able to knife me in the back, that's the game's fault.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Just a sec, I'll get a video up here on YouTube here pretty soon.
Yeah.
That's not Battlefield 3.
Yeah.
No, it's a completely different game.
Clearly,
So, yeah, I mean,
you're hacking.
I'm clearly hacking. Yeah. I'm going to get banned for cheats. But, you know, I think that there have been some issues. They haven't been, like, major game-breaking issues. I mean, we've been able to get in and play the game. There were some lag and rubber banding issues. I haven't had any of those since the server patch, although that whole insta-death thing that I was experiencing in the alpha and beta, that seems to have reappeared since that patch. But it's not as bad, you know, so things are progressing, and it's getting better. And, you know, a lot of people were speculating that with the exodus of players to Modern Warfare 3, the game would be playing the way it's intended. And, you know, I don't mean to burst any bubbles, but people still need to focus on the team play.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's gonna sink in. I think it's definitely gonna sink. I mean, we've had
it's a steep learning curve. You know, there's a lot of stuff that went into the game, and I think, as I mentioned to you, you know, occasionally things are put into a game that are really well intended, and the developer doesn't necessarily think about it from the perspective of what can a really obnoxious player do with this.
Yes.
And, you know, it's not until the game is out and has sunk in for a little bit that all of that feedback gets collected. And I mean, you know, talking to yourself and Alan, you guys are willing to listen and are willing to fix things. So, you know, to the listeners, if there are those issues, and I mean, there are issues. I love the game, but I know it's not perfect. I don't think anyone's claiming that it is. But if you give feedback in a respectful way, then it gets listened to. So, you know, if you have issues, then frame them up articulately, respectfully, give examples if you can, and it'll get in front of the right set of eyes.
Yeah, and I have to say that a lot of people, ever since the game has been out, have been doing these awesome videos with tutorials and play the objective videos and that kind of stuff. And I think that's the perfect way to educate people on how to play Battlefield 3. Because it's not your regular FPS game. It's a more team-oriented FPS game for mature gamers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the whole reason why you pretty much started DRMB, was to showcase videos of people doing cool things and tips and tricks and whatever else. So the more people like Colin, the more you do tutorial videos and show people how to play the game, eventually people will pick up on that.
And I'm going to be working here with Daniel on hopefully some good stuff right down that alley that we're going to try and get off the ground here real soon. So stay tuned.
Coming soon, TM.
Yes.
Was I aware of this?
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for coming on. Third time. You are
It's always a pleasure.
You're definitely the fan favorite, and we appreciate you having, taking the time of your busy schedule to come on. So maybe in a couple months we'll talk to you again and see what Battlefield 3 brings us.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, guys, I have a favor to ask from the whole Battlefield community. Like, everyone playing Battlefield needs to do me this favor. So, back at Gamescom, I played Team Deathmatch with Rob Bowling. And I told him, Rob, one day I'm going to get your 402 tags in BF3. He said, no, never. So, I think everyone should just, tweet him or something and make sure that he shows up on a server where I'm playing so we can battle it out.
Okay,
I want those tags.
Speaking of dog tags, when is DRMB going to get their own special dog tags in game? I think we need one with like a defib symbol, maybe an X through it.
That would be very interesting. Oh, you have no idea how many. This is also one of the reasons that my inbox has like 1,000 unread messages. And I'm serious. I can take a picture of this tomorrow. I have 1,013 unread messages in my inbox. And this is also one of the reasons why I just skip over those emails. Because during the stressful times when I need to reply to the important emails, I get emails from all over the world with companies and people saying, hey, can I get my own personal dog tag? Can my company get this dog tag? And can we use it and that kind of stuff? So I've taken the stuff I think is important. And one of them is the Battlefield community dog tag and DRMB dog tag. And, community sites that have done something really cool to get their own dog tags. And hopefully we'll have time to implement it.
That would be very cool. Maybe coming in DLC, community dog tags.
Yeah, hopefully. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
A lot of people were trying to get...
DLC. What? PDLC is a payable DLC. There.
A lot of people were trying to get your dog tags last night, but you spent too much time in the chopper, so you'd never come out.
Yeah, see, I gotta level up in the chopper. Me and Stadler were owning it up. Sorry for base ripping, by the way. We parked that transport heli right above your runway.
Yeah, that was good times on the DRMB flying server. Right on.
Dirty.
Well, Mr. Colin, let's... I have one thing to kind of mention. It's a special thing we're doing. We haven't done a podcast in a little over a month, but we're actually doing another one tomorrow, which is Thursday, November 10th. It'll be Colin's birthday. He won't be there, but Alex, Exerguard's the DRMB community manager, will be co-hosting with me. We have Kelly, aka Miss Violence. She is the original cast member on Season 1 of the WCG Ultimate Gamer on Sci-Fi Channel, if anybody watched that. She is also the pro of the Dark Blue team on GameSpot.com's Battlefield 3 series, The Controller. So we'll be talking to her about her gaming history, her experience with the show, what she likes about Battlefield 3, and everything else. So that will be tomorrow.
Nice. Oh, Colin, how old are you, by the way? You wanna tell people that?
So despite what my YouTube page says, this is kind of cool because I'm actually younger than it says, but I'm turning 34 tomorrow.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's good for you.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, when people are talking about BF2, taking them back to their roots, actually, it takes me back to my late 20s, and I didn't actually play it when it first came out because I was not gaming. I was in the process of getting a wife and a house and all that kind of stuff. So,
right.
I missed it in its heyday.
Yep, I'm sure you live a happy life now, Colin, being 34 and all.
Very. 34 is the new 24 anyway, so...
Just don't
so
tell...
25 is the new 15?
Yeah. As my age goes up, then, my wife is wondering when I'm going to grow up, but, it's funny, is now I'm into gaming more than ever, and didn't really start until I was in my early 30s, so... What you going to do? And, she's got her own hobbies as well that are unique. So, it's a pretty good dynamic we have. So even with a wife and a couple of kids and being 34, I'm still able to enjoy this all to its fullest.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good.
Just don't tell Daniel what you asked for your birthday.
Yeah. Please, let me know.
Well, no, because I didn't actually want to spend any of my money on it, but I want to finish the campaign because I played the previous ones. I did ask for Modern Warfare 3 for my birthday, and it felt less dirty if it was somebody else's money getting spent. So,
Awesome.
or I can't bring myself to pay that much for a DLC. So.
You read the comments. Someone wrote, "You're dead to me."
No, but it's it's a testament to how much I'm enjoying 3. I didn't actually go out and buy it the day it released, so I'm just waiting, and I'll get around to playing the campaign at some point in the winter when I have nothing better to do. So.
You
All right, sounds good.
Yeah. Great. Well, anything else you want to leave us with?
Yes. One more thing I wanted to say. I wanted to thank all of our players, like all of our players. I know all players are not listening, but on the behalf of DICE, a very, very big thank you for sticking with us for almost 10 years of Battlefield and 10 years of shifts in gaming industry, 10 years of shifts in game design and that kind of stuff. We really, really appreciate the support. And we internally thank the community quite a lot as well for the crazy things you come up with in videos and the feedback we're getting and the amount of hype we received. One thing that is not to be forgotten is when the community praises a lot. I mean, all the hype that has been done, it's been mostly spread around by you guys on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, and that kind of stuff, which is absolutely fantastic. And the amount of praise we get outweighs the amount of negativity as well. There are always going to be negative posts, but I would say there are more supportive and feedback-related posts than there are negative posts. And we really want to thank you guys for that.
Excellent. That's good to hear.
And we'll keep it coming.
Oh, thank you, Paul.
Great. Well, thank you again for coming on. This has been episode 26 of the Don't Revive Me Bro Battlefield Community Podcast. We will have a special podcast for you guys tomorrow, and look for D. Crew Collins' amazing new Battlefield 3 song coming 2 weeks, per se. 2 weeks? Mm-hmm.
Ish, yeah. Coming soon. As I said, I'm pulling a dice. I'm not promising a release date here yet.
Yeah, it needs to pass quality instances first.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll do QA on it tomorrow. Great. Thanks for everyone for listening live in the live stream. And this will be up on the website, iTunes, and YouTube next week.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks
to, and even though he's not here, we're going to give a big shout out to Alan Demize99 for taking the time.
For sure. Between pints, yeah.
Exactly.
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 Between pints, yeah.